Hello guys and gals, and welcome! So today we're going to be looking at the BowNeMancer again. If you guys haven't seen my BowNeMancer, he's a pretty cool little dude. I did a video on him a while back, and there have been a lot of changes to the BowNeMancer build, which have made him a little bit more viable than he was previously. To go over some of those changes, number one is the massive piercing bonus that we get from the new Wisdom runeword, which enables an extra 33% piercing that wasn't there before. So this is a pretty big thing because before we were only capable of getting just the meager 33% pierce from Razortail, but now we get the extra pierce from Wisdom, which brings us to a very nice 66% pierce. On top of that, they also, in 2.4, buffed up Bone Spear, gave it 1% extra damage synergy for each damage synergy, which is actually pretty sweet. So that means that Bone Spear itself has gotten a little bit higher damage than it was prior to the time I tested it previously. There was also some errors in the way that I tested it previously. So, for instance, the first mistake that I made was I put the brand bow in a Hydra bow, which was kind of a slower, higher damage base. I've rectified that this time by putting the brand bow in a faster base, the blade bow, which is a -10 base bow. I have also gotten some charms this time, which I had none before. I had no Hellfire Torch, I had no Annie, I had no charms, and I've decided to give myself +3 max 2020 charms because everybody has a full inventory of 3 2020 charms just sitting around, right? I also gave myself a better pair of gloves, some nice 20% IAS gloves with dual leech and 10% crushing blow. I figure if you're going to build this kind of character, you're probably going to want something like this anyway. Overall, the character is kind of limited in equipment because he has to build faster attack speed wherever he can, which means he has to use things like High Lord's Wrath. We had to take off the Andes for the Wisdom, which was sad. The Bone Armor has to be there for the extra Bone Spears on striking, and just in general, like we've got a kind of like a really limited gear set. But I did try to give him at least the 15% crushing blow, the 15% deadly strike, and the 10% open wounds from Gore Riders, and then also the 37% deadly strike from the High Lord's Wrath. And then, he also gets the 10% crushing blow on the Soul Touch Vampire Bone gloves. So he's running some interesting statistics, and he's definitely built a lot better than he was before. And what I want to do is I want to take him into the cow level, and I want to see how he rolls in the cow level. So let's go grab the leg real quick, shall we? Oh, also, previously I didn't have a merc for him either. So I gave him a Fanaticism Mercenary, because that's obviously going to increase his attack speed, which is obviously going to help him out a ton, because the faster he attacks, the better. Get in there, Golem, and do your job. What's wrong with you? Oh, and I forgot to say we're testing this on Players 3 right now. We'll bump it up to Players 8 in a little bit. I just want to, kind of like play around with it on Players 3 first, and then we'll go into Players 8 cows next. I mean, this is definitely the better, more optimized BowNeMancer. Yes, yes. Ah, there you are, Rakinishu. And he's kind of kicking butt now. Like, he's doing really good. I'm actually kind of impressed with how good he's doing. What's up, Grizzy Busy? Let's see how good we do against Grizzy Busy. Damage is a little lacking versus Grizz. The torch is the old torch, Mimi. So I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but the old torch before they nerfed it was 25% chance to cast level 10 Firestorm instead of the meager one that we have now. And that's the reason why it procs more often. They nerfed it. I can't remember what patch they nerfed it in, but it was a while back. And when they nerfed it, they brought it way down. Like, I think it's like 5% now. Alright, so we got our leg, and we don't have a scroll of town portal. There's a scroll of town portal. Yay. Alright, let's go test this on the cows. Let's see how we do. Testy, 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 tests. Bink. Bink. This is players 3 that we're testing on right now. Dulay. Alright, into the cows we go. Oh, right to the Cow King. What's up, Cow King? Not terrible. Not terrible. Oh, the torch does hardly any damage in hell difficulty anyway. I don't know why anybody would make a big deal out of it. The torch is like not even really that much damage, even by most standards. Some players 3's cow is not like super duper duper fast. But you know what's cool about being a necromancer? I can do this. Really? That's right, Golem, do thine duty. This is actually really fun. I'm not gonna lie. I'm having a blast with this guy. Everybody group up on my golem right there. Look, get in there. Get in. Oh no, I'm running out of arrows. These bone spears just go everywhere too. It's pretty amazing how awesome the bone spears are. Just constant, never-ending bone spears that are shooting and hitting everything. The damage is very spread. Like, I would never say that the damage isn't spread, because it is very spread out. Like, because the bone spears are piercing, they're going through multiple targets. The multiple targets are hitting other multiple targets. Every single time the bone spears go through and hit more targets, it's just spreading out the damage even further and even farther. It's kind of the similar issue we had with Whirlwind earlier today, is that we noticed that, like, as you Whirlwinded, you were hitting, like, everything. And you weren't really focusing your damage on any one target. So it does kind of make it different. I mean, I could, but but because I didn't actually put any points in Bone Spear, I don't actually have the ability to cast. The Bone Spear that I have is only level 9, and it's only 599 to 658 damage. The Bone Spear that comes out of the actual bow is level 18 Bone Spear and does a hell of a lot more damage than that level 9 ever would. Even the one that comes out of the armor at level 10 is doing more damage than the one that I could cast. So there's absolutely no reason for me to cast it as opposed to just simply firing the bow. It's also very hard to get an accurate grasp of what's going on, because I do feel like there's just like you can't really picture how much damage I'm doing, because like as I roll my mouse over, you notice like every single cow is about the same amount of HP down. because the bone spears are hitting everything. Like, as it pierces through, it's hitting, like, every single monster. So there's a really big difference between, like, looking at one monster's HP go down and then realizing that every single monster in that line is also going down by the same amount of HP. So I get pretty crappy single target kill speed, but every monster's dying at the same kill speed, so it's actually not too terrible. I'm also doing a little bit of physical damage in there too, which is kind of surprising. Enchant would help out a lot too. I forgot that the brand bow has the fires explosive arrows or bolts. And if I had somebody to toss me an enchant, or if I gave myself a demon limb or something like that, it would have a pretty big impact on the amount of damage I was putting out. Because the exploding arrows are obviously exploding and piercing just like everything else is exploding and piercing. And I could also be tossing out amp damage, which I'm not doing. Hold on. Which, of course, is not only going to help me, it's also going to help the mercenary. And my thing is like at any time I can toss out some corpse explosions and murder everything as soon as I'm actually like got some bodies on the ground. And I can get bodies on the ground pretty quickly. I mean, it really doesn't take me very many shots before at least one cow is dead. And if they stack up like this, they die pretty fast. Alright, so just for lulz, because I want to see this, let's check and see what it's like on players 1. We're going to do this one more time on players 1. And then we're going to do a kind of a more, dramatic one on players 8, obviously, to see how terrible he is in the same situation on players 8. So let's go grab the leg again. Grab the leg again. Come on down and grab the leg again. There's a dead kid on the floor over here, and he's got a peg leg for you. It's kind of morbid. Yeah, we're all having troubles, Alan Moore Jr. I think everybody is. My physical damage isn't even really that high. I would like to somehow sneak in extra crushing blow on this. Like, I think it might actually even be worth it to take off the bone armor for the second bone spear proc, just so that I had a little bit more crushing blow. It might actually work out to my advantage. There is an item with cast on striking poison explosion, which is rather interesting. The only use of which I can imagine is to, like, get rid of corpses. I imagine it would be really good at getting rid of corpses. So in my previous testing, Kyle, I found that the army spread out the monsters too much. And since all of my damage is basically coming from these small bone spears that are obviously going in a straight line, what I basically found out was the army kind of works against the idea of this build entirely. So if you go with this particular build, you want them kind of clustered up so that the bone spears are hitting everything. And if you have an army, everything spreads out, and it's a lot more difficult to hit those bone spears on target. All right, so this is players 1 cows. Let's play around with this, and then we're going to go to players 8 cows. Forgot to cast my golem. It's not still broken. Oh yeah, the other thing that I forgot to mention about this build, which I talked about previously, was that the bone armor recasts itself constantly. So if you guys haven't seen bone armor is a really interesting necromancer armor that basically revolves around the two proc effects on it, which is the chance to cast bone armor and the chance to cast bone spear. So I have a 15% chance when I'm struck to just recast level 10 bone armor on myself. Which means that when I get into trouble, a lot of the times you'll just see my bone armor refresh, and it saves my life repeatedly. And it's absolutely amazing for any kind of character that you're trying to build that might be like semi-melee, or you get in there and you fight a little bit more than you probably should. All right. Well, he kind of dominates players 1. I would say without a doubt he's dominating players 1 with no issue whatsoever. Even when I forget to cast amplify damage, he's still hitting like a Mack truck. And obviously I'm trying to test him on his merits alone as the BowNeMancer, not the Corpse Explosion Mancer. But he obviously at any time can just cast his Corpse Explosion. Alright, so let's try this one more time on players 8, and then we'll call this a video, shall we? Because I feel like he's definitely succeeding a lot better than he did previously. Alright, so gameplay, players 8. I do have a feeling he's going to struggle a little bit in players 8. He seems to be close to that threshold where it's like he's just barely doing good enough, and he's not quite there at the level where he can just dominate players 8 cows. But I do have these, though, which I had totally forgotten about. So my bone walls are, like, ridiculous. And my bone prison is ridiculous. So let's play around with my bone wall and my bone prison as well. So let me put the bone prison on F5. So, I mean, at any time, if I was getting into trouble, I could always bone prison the monster and demolish them while they're in the bone prison.
I just got in, not all that flying by out of the way.
You just got in? Have you just been, like, trying over and over again, and then it just, like, sometimes works?
Just said, for me, authenticity unrequired, so I'm resetting.
No, I've been making test characters, and it just let me in all of a sudden.
Your account is unable to post or reply until September 23rd, 3021. I think you're going to be dead by then, buddy.
I'm online right now, I can see my characters.
3020.
I'm online now.
3021 is a long ways away.
That's a long queue. Yeah, I'm online right now.
What did he say to get that, though?
He said he let them know the game was broken. That's a loaded statement. It could mean anything. Honestly, this character's not doing, like, too insanely bad for players 8. I mean, granted, he's still just getting where it's lag, but it's kind of cute. I feel like he'd be really fun to play in a group. Just, like, run around shooting everything with a bow.
Like, a ton of other auras. hours would be insane.
The games list is so colorful now.
Yeah, I'm in a match right now. I'm in a private game I just made.
Hello.
Pink colored dots for each game.
It's a delicate balance that bans is. Like obviously you don't want to ban your entire player base, but you can't just let people do whatever they want either, because then the player base just disappears on its own because nobody wants to play. Like you're literally stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Isn't that what happened in the old Diablo 2? Eventually people stopped playing because it was just bots?
Most people just played offline because it was the only place that they could control, you know. Like, you're like, hey, you're cheating? And be like, no. Or like, I'm pretty sure you're cheating. Like, I think I'm just going to go play by myself.
The only reason I ever played back like recently was like I would play maybe like 3 or 4 weeks after the ladder would start, and I would basically just find a 4-socket armor or an armor that I could socket, you know, in the socket cube, and I would make a crazy OP strong 4-socket armor, and I'd sell it for like a burr, just because people would pay a burr for that, you know, because they had so many bots. And then I'd get like my burr, and then I'd move up from there, and then it was pretty much like a couple weeks and I'd be fully kitted. Plus they had all the bots running chaos and stuff. It was like no problem to level up all by yourself.
That wasn't bad.
Which made it like lame, but like I don't know, like if you were playing by yourself, it made it like tolerable, I guess. Plus, like, people had everything. Like, if it wasn't a perfect version of what you were looking for, they would give it to you basically for free.
It was worse before, but it's still like that now, yeah.
I don't know.
I
couldn't
it
stand
was
that
fun
mentality.
if you wanted to min-max it in like a week or two, but like I enjoyed starting this ladder and everybody working together, and like you'd post an item and it'd be like, so and so, I know you need this, and then like when they'd get on, they'd be like, oh my god, thank you,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like when we found the first Titans, and literally just like the first person, our first Javazon got the first Titans that we found. It was like super ecstatic.
After that, and then
And
it
like,
was like, all right, let's all join this guy and just buff him up.
and right now, if you tried to like give somebody those same Titans that we found on like day 2, like they would look at you funny and be like, it's not Hef and it's not perfect and it has bad lifesteal on it, and like there's no comparison to like the amount of excitement that you have versus that crap.
I'm
Oh, it's not
lie,
perfect.
I use my non-eth ones more just because I still do the same damage with Lightning Fury. It's only the physical that changes.
I'm trying to figure out where my knockback is coming from. Apparently I have knockback. I just don't know what's on it.
Is it that on brand?
I don't know. Maybe it is.
Yeah, I think Brand has it. No, wait, what's your bow?
Yeah, I'm running brand. That's like the main component of the entire build.
Yeah, it's not a cheap build, but it is pretty cool though. Like, it seemed to be working very well.
I mean, even in Players 8, it's not doing terrible. You know what it kind of feels like? It kind of just feels like you're like a Bone Spear Necromancer, though. I've actually built some Bone Spear Necromancers.
Somebody said in the chat it was like a makeshift.
Yeah, but if you wanted to be a
Furies
bow
on or
version,
whatever, a little bit.
there you go. Like, I really like bows.
Well, here's the cool thing about it, in my opinion. You can add in other chance to cast abilities. So, like, you can't chance to cast, obviously, with a Bone Spear, because it's a spell. But you can chance to cast with a bow. So it's like an interesting way to add chance to cast into your build if you wanted to. Like, maybe you could work in, like, some other chance to cast items.
Yeah, you could find like a gold item that's got like teeth or something, like or maybe not teeth. I don't know, that's not
even like we were talking about earlier, there's gloves and stuff that have multi-shot on them.
Yeah, that's what I said. That's what I said earlier. It was multi-shot. That'd be sick.
Okay, brand bow has knockback on it. Okay, so the knockback is specifically coming from the brand bow.
Have you tried brand on a Fury Druid?
Was it funny? Wouldn't do very much damage though without the synergies. That was like the entire idea behind this guy. Alright, well I think this is pretty conclusive that this works. Players 1, he dominates. Players 3, he does fine. Players 8, he can do it, but it's not like super fast or anything. Like I feel like he doesn't have an issue doing Players 8. He's not struggling, he's not dying, but he's not doing it so quickly that, you know, like you would consider this like a optimal Players 8 build or anything. But I feel like he'd have a lot of fun playing him in a group. Like he'd be kind of fun to play like with 8 other people. And I think that's pretty much the end of the video, so I'm gonna do my outro here. As always, thanks for watching, guys and gals, and keep watching.